Eisenhower administration during the election campaign for its apparent failure to do anything about Castro, he had in fact painted himself into a corner on the issue. He was concerned also about the possible effect of the spread of Cuban-style left-wing revolution in Latin America, undermining his cherished alliance for progress with the governments in the area. The Kennedys had spent the weekend of April 15th and 16th at Glenora. On Monday, April 17, 1961, they returned to the White House, where they were due to welcome the Greek Prime Minister to lunch. At 4:45 a.m. that same morning, 1,400 CIA-trained Cuban exiles landed on the south coast of Cuba, in an area known as the Bay of Pigs. By the next day, the messages from the beachhead were desperate. That evening, a congressional reception was held as planned at the White House. Jack and Jackie appeared just after 10 as the Marine Band played Mr. Wonderful. Just before midnight, the President slipped away to attend a grim meeting of the Inner Circle in the Cabinet Room. The operation had been botched from start to finish. Recently declassified documents revealed that the Soviets knew of it by around 9 April, a leak of which the CIA was aware, but let the invasion proceed nonetheless. By 1 p.m. on April 19th, the U.S. Chiefs of Staff had concluded there was nothing left to be done but rescue as many of the invaders as possible. Even that attempt was a failure. They succeeded in getting only 14 men away. 1,189 surrendered to Castro's forces. Kennedy blamed himself for the fiasco and bravely took the responsibility for it at a press conference a few days later. "There's an old saying," he said, "that victory has 100 fathers and defeat is an orphan. I am the responsible officer of this government." The humiliation of the Bay of Pigs meant that Castro and Cuba became an obsession with the Kennedy brothers. Jack and Jackie were scheduled to make their visit to Canada on May 17th. On May 11th, they flew to Palm Beach, and it was there that on May 12th, Jack summoned Max Jacobson to tell him of his concern about Jackie's mental and physical condition, chronic depression and headaches, and whether she would be able to take the strain of the forthcoming Canadian trip. Jackie's regal mask concealed a personality subject to great strain and periods of collapse. Her nail-biting and smoking, only in private, expressed her tension. There were periods when she felt inadequate and unable to cope, leaning heavily on Jack. Robin Douglas Home, nephew of the Kennedys' friend William, a young man intensely sensitive to women and the lover, among others, of Princess Margaret, had several long, intimate conversations with Jackie during the White House years and after. He described those hours with Jackie pouring out her heart as the most emotionally disturbing I have ever had. It seemed to him that she had been literally projected into a position where she could rarely, if ever, be completely herself, or do anything, go anywhere, say anything, laugh, cry, drink, or even talk as she wished, without the fear of becoming the subject of public comment, political gossip, or social tittle-tattle. And that, although all this sickened her, she was forced to put up with it because of her loyalty to her husband. She seemed the original bird in the gilded cage, too intelligent, too proud, and too stubborn to accept her captivity as part of the price she must pay. Jack and Jackie remained emotionally twin icebergs, as she had originally described them. Her inhibitions in her closest relationships led both her husbands to complain of her coldness. She found it easier to express herself on paper, as a love letter she wrote to Jack in October 1963, in the last few weeks of his life, demonstrated. Jack himself, although superficially more outgoing, was reserved in return. Her failure to communicate with him, and he with her, as easily as he appeared to with other women, was a source of real frustration, as was his unconscious relegation of her to a domestic level when she was clearly intellectually capable of so much more. He treated her, she later wrote, as a Victorian wife. And then there was the pain his infidelities caused her, which she gallantly concealed.